welcome out. Welcome. Oh boy, welcome back, everybody. We are live. We haven't done a video here in about a week. We are doing a retake on the Euro streamer that we tied on our last session. We have here our glass Euro jigging streamer, whatever you want to call it. We made this fly on our last video, and we were playing around with tweaking some of the shanks, and we called them a coat hanger style shank, and it looks something like that. We have made some improvements on this fly, so we wanted to revisit and come back and show you how we tied this fly going forward. So I'm sure it's going to be tweaked even more. It was just a prototype the first time we tied it. We don't really like how big this loop is for our tie-in point. I would like to, in the future, get that a little bit smaller and lower to the top of the bait. Real simple tie. We use resin, we use a shank, we use a hook, some marabou, and color. Glass rattle is in the center of this body, and a single tungsten bead of whatever choice size you'd like it. Obviously, the heavier the bead, the faster it's going to sink, and it helps keel this fly a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get started. If you'd like to see how we tied the tail, I would suggest you revisit our first video we did on this fly. We went ahead and pre-tied some of these tails just so we can keep this video as short as possible for all of you out there. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, click the bell icon so you get notified when we go live and you know exactly what we're going to be tying. As we said before, we're going to continue to improve this channel, improve these tying sessions, so we can give all of you the best viewing capability and experience we can provide. So yeah, Facebook, Instagram at TLE Media, and YouTube at Tight Lines Entertainment. Thanks, Mike, for joining us, and we are going to get this started. So we got our thread going on our vise. We're going to go ahead and switch over to this tighter angle for you. We're going to take our thread all the way back to our tie-in point, where we're going to be putting in our what we call underbody. That's going to give this fly all its shimmer and shine, just like that there. Alright, so we've been playing around with pinching this nose down, trying to bring the nose of the fly a little bit lower. This wire, we described it in the last video. It's a 180-pound shark bite wire for saltwater fishing, and that's what we made this shank out of, using our looper tool. So we're just getting this wire bent to the way we would like it. And I left the length of this eye, of what will be the eye of the fly, a little longer, because we want to create durability as much as possible. And we're going to figure 8 and wrap this so we can pinch off that point there. It's not really cooperating right now. Let me get my needle nose, and I'll bend this a little bit so we can get it to close a little easier. So just like you would do a parapost, we're wrapping down on this portion, and it's all going to be covered with resin, but just for peace of mind, closing off all of our openings with thread just is going to help add some durability into this fly. Okay, I'm going to use our rubber band trick around our hook shank, bring it around the neck of our vise, like so, and then we loop it down and around so it looks like that. It's got the rubber band loop down and around to hold that fly so we can still use the rotary portion of our vise. I'm going to bring our thread all the way back again, and we're going to add in the exact same, so it's going to be our underbody of tinsel, and this is a shimmering copper color. And this fly is going to represent more of our sucker minnow or golden shiner that we have in our water system. Like I said, this is a really simple fly to tie. They come out, I think, really pretty. And I'm going to keep tension on my little spindle here, and I'm going to keep it on the side away from me, so that way as I wrap, it brings tension into the material, and I can control my wraps going down the shank and keeping those taut. And I do it this way instead of just cutting a chunk off, because I waste less material. Just want to make sure that it's not twisting on you. I'll use as much as I need to, and then I'll be able to tie it off without losing any of this. Could have had my jaws a little tighter, but we'll deal with it. And I'm just going to do like a figure 8 around the eye here and wrap around it just to cover up as much exposed thread as possible. And I'm going to tie it off right here in front of the nose. A couple thread wraps over top and behind it, one in front, two in front, and then we'll just trim that off. And remember, we're gonna cover the nose of this fly with some epoxy. It's not gonna show, and we'll color up these threads a little bit just so they blend in a little bit better. We're going to be using a dark brown Copic marker. It's actually the burnt umber E28, and I'm going to go ahead and take that marker and we're going to coat up all the way around on those threads. Anywhere you have exposed white thread, like I said before, it doesn't matter what color thread you really use because it's all going to be covered up. Maybe I'll add a little stripe down the back because we're going to be doing that once we throw our first base color of resin down. We're going to use this Solares, or Solares, however you want to say it, thick, UV thick. Going to get our light ready, turned on, get it warmed up, and I'm just trying to use up the last bit I have in this small tube before I switch over to the other one. And we're going to use our rotary, so I'm going to open up the indexer portion on my vise. If you don't have an indexer, you just have the rotary. You don't have to call it the indexer. And I'm going to coat all of the copper colored ribbing just like so. Okay, we're going to show you on the next fly here where we add in. This is just going to be a straightforward one in case you don't have glass rattles, you don't have beads. We're going to just go ahead and create this body pretty straightforward. It's not going to keel the same as the last fly that we showed you. In fact, to keep, like I said, keep this video short, let's go ahead and I'll switch over to another shank. We'll go through this process quickly again and add in. I'll show you where you would add in your rattle and your bead. So I'll just cure this up and set it off to the side. Okay, back in the game. So we want to get our glass rattle positioned. This is just a micro glass rattle. You can find these pretty much anywhere. I think I picked these up maybe on Amazon. I know that some of the fly shops probably do sell these. This is just a short, I think ½ inch long glass rattle with 2 bearings inside of it. We're going to position it with the point of the rattle towards the back of the fly. We're going to unwind our thread so we get our thread flat. So twist it till you flatten out your thread. You want to make those rotations to the left, okay, which would be towards the back of the fly if you're right-handed. I'm going to hold my rattle here on the underside of the fly. I'm going to wrap going back, forward, and then I'm going to wrap around the rattle itself to hold it right at the bottom. I'm going to come to the front of the rattle. I'm going to add in a small piece of 8-pound mono. Doesn't matter what kind it is. This is just the 8-pound Maxima Clear. I'm going to cut off about 1.5 inch section, and I'm going to tie it right in front of this rattle. I'm going to go around my eye of the fly here. You can see on this one we did address making that eye a little smaller, so it's all learning experience, no matter how long you've been tying. Alright, so we are going to use a copper tungsten bead, and we're going to slip that onto our 8-pound mono, and I'm going to put it onto the mono through the bead side or the eye side first, because when I pull that line up, the opening will be towards the front of the fly. Actually, let me reverse that. I want to go through the back of the bead the way I tied this mono in. So I want it to position itself like this, right up against the rattle. And I'm going to pull that mono tight. Get my hook out of the way here in a second. I'm going to throw my rubber band back on, just the way we did before. Okay. Just like so. I'm going to wrap it around the bead, and I'm just going to use my thread to get this bead in the position that I want it to hold in. Lost it there. think that looks pretty good. We're going to trim off the excess portion of our 8-pound mono. And now just back to the step that we just showed you last time. We're going to go ahead and bring it all the way back. We're going to tie in our copper rib. Bring our thread all the way to the front of our fly. If your bead's a little loose, it's not going to matter too much as soon as you get that thing coated with some resin. And just so it doesn't move here, I think I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit of resin on that bead on each side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue with our wrap. Going to go right over top of everything, the rattle, all the way up the shank. And since the rattle's in there, you're going to have to do some open spiral wraps because it's going to want to slide backwards on you. Just go back and forth until you cover up all your thread. I do like putting the rattles into the body. I found it takes up more space. You use less resin, and it does give it more of that minnow body profile. I'll bring my thread up into the front of the fly, and I'm gonna kind of X wrap around the bead to leave the bead exposed. Once around my eye, and then to the head of the fly. Gonna slip off the edge there. I'm just gonna try to fasten it anywhere I can get it. Now I'll cover up my mistakes with with some marker. Just like that. Alright, back to the resin. We're going to coat that fly front to back all the way around. And I'm using the nozzle of the resin to kind of smooth it out if I get too much in one spot. This is only the third or fourth one of these flies we've tried to tie. And I'm doing this quick rotation to kind of smooth out that resin. I'll slow it down and take a look at it, see how it's looking. If you guys have any questions or anything, we we'd like to answer those while we are doing this live if you are watching. I think this fly is pretty simple and self-explanatory though. And once this is tacked up and dry to the touch, we'll come back in with our Copic marker and we will coat the top portion of the fly, give it a two-tone look. And that's why I said, like, you're covering up mistakes, so if it doesn't start off looking pretty at the beginning, it doesn't matter. By the time you finish it, it should have a pretty good look. So now that we added one coat of resin, we're going to go back over top of that marker with a second coat of the UV thick. And we're just trying to create that minnow teardrop or bullet shape all the way around. I'm going to go right over top of the bead at this point, tie it in with the rest of the fly in the belly. I'm going to give it some spins. Just evening out that coat if you're just joining us and you're wondering why we're spinning it like this. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my light in once I have a desired shape to the fly. And I'm going to cure it up. And since you are using quite a bit of resin, you know, I know it only takes about 8 seconds or so. I like to take my time and I'll hit it with the light longer than's truly needed. The next layer of resin that we're going to add is going to be the UV thin. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and switch over to adding the eyes to the fly. And we got these eyes just off Amazon. I got a series of different colors here. We're going to use the middle section here. I think that's just going to look good with this fly. Actually, you know what? I have an amber colored eye that's here on the top. Let's go ahead and add that one. That'll blend in with the coloration of this fly just a little bit better. So just one, we're going to engage our indexer at this point. We're going to turn it to the side. And we're going to just put a nice little drop of the UV thick right where the eye is going to go. Just drop the eye right onto that spot. Check and make sure it's where I want it. And then we're just going to hit it with our light. We're going to flip it on over to the other side. Add another little drop of the UV thick. And grab another medium-sized eye. Try to get it lined up in the same spot as the other side, and then hit it with our light. piece of hair or something here. Let's trim that out of the way. Alright, so we're going to take the UV thin and we're going to go over this entire fly. So I'm going to start around the eyes to fill in the gaps between the eye and the body. You can see the shape really starting to come together now, giving it that small fry look. I'm going to pull the indexer off. Give it some spins here. Come in and hit it with our UV light. And if you get a little bit of UV cure on the tip of your vise, it's not that big a deal. It'll break off at the end. The last thing that I like to coat these flies with is the Solares Bone Dry formula. This stuff, I feel like it just really puts a nice sheen and protection coat over top of all the resin. I know it's a lot of the same stuff, but it just brings out a lot of those colors. You gotta make sure you keep spinning it when you use this stuff because it's super thin. So there you have it. That is the glass articulated Euro streamer. This thing it's going to be heavy. It's going to be, but you're throwing it on a Euro rod anyway, so you need to use a little bit of the weight of that fly. Thing's going to sink quick. I think it works pretty well. It looks really good. You still can hear the rattle through the body. No problem. And we are going to leave this underneath the light for a little while to really harden and cure up that fly. So let us know what you think. If you think this is a fly, or if you think it's a lure, is it something that you would totally fish? Yeah. Thanks for tuning in and watching. We're going to finish curing up this fly and get out there and test it out on the water soon. So tight lines, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at TLE Media, Facebook on Tight Lines Entertainment, and the same for YouTube. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll bring you another video here